In our previous show from the Lee Holland stages, we brought you the action from the overall results, and in this show we'll be taking a look at the various classes in a little more detail. Starting with the E2 class as a reminder of those overall results too. It would be an early lead for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. The championship was theirs to lose really, been ahead of the points going into the final 2 rounds. But that of course didn't take any of the pressure off, they still needed a good result and of course a finish. The competition this weekend was coming from Rob Hughes and Sean Cunniff. The pair always go well here at Anglesey with it being their home event, and this weekend was no different. Second place for now and only 9 seconds behind. Chris West and Keith Hounslow were the only ones in the GT class this weekend. They were finding the car suited to the faster open sections of the circuit here at Anglesey, but felt a little bit too big and lacked some grip on the tighter technical sections. Still, things were going well as the pair lie in 4th overall.
It would be a convincing lead in Class A for Christopher and Anthony Newton. The pair had a 6.5-hour journey to get here this weekend, so they were going to make the most of this and make that result count. They play it safe with wet tyres for the first loop of the day, and that choice pays off.
Team Newton, the force to be reckoned with this year for Class A. How are we going today?
Not too bad today. The tricky conditions this morning made it a bit interesting, but we're going well. That was a lot better stage, that, so all good, just need to keep it going. We just picked our 4 tyres up from the Pro Tyre, winning the first 4 rounds, so I'm very pleased with that. So.
Awesome. Well, yeah, keep it going today, and then we've got tomorrow as well, so yeah.
We'll try and keep it going, that's all we need to do, finish both events.
Behind them in the class would be Hugh Williams and Martin Pendlebury. Only the second ever rally for Hugh, so they will be more than happy with those results and the times on the sheets so far. And third in that class would be Rob Jones and Chris Cook. They were just over half a minute back from Williams at this stage. Class A was looking like shaping up to be a fight we'd all want to see.
In Class B, there would be no problems at all for Ben Wilkinson and David Batley. They were going well to lead the class by almost a minute at this stage. The lead in that class would be over Ashley Morris and Mark Fowler. It was 5 years since Ashley first competed here at Anglesey, and since then she now has 45 events under her belt. Safe to say the rally bug has bitten then. This would be the first time at the venue for Alex Cannon and Alan Carfrae. The pair had gone well in the championship so far though, and were having a really good morning here too, currently lying 3rd in the class. For Billy and Jason Grew, it would be 4th in class. The pair were only a handful of seconds back from the podium places, so they would be wanting a push in the afternoon. Another newcomer to the venue in this class would be James Toyton and Chloe Louise Thomas. First time at the venue and first time in the car together as well. James was a couple of events in now after a 31-year break from the sport, and definitely getting used to the new car now. Unfortunately, we would lose Brian and Jack Cherrett in stage 2 when the engine let go. This was only their second stage rally, the first being Snetterton earlier in the year, but despite this setback they have promised to be back out next season. A very uncharacteristic mistake from Chris Rook and Steve Harris sees them go the wrong way at a split, giving them a stage maximum and putting them right down the order and now in a chasing position. Josh Pinn and Jamie Vaughan would be leading the way in Class C. The pair were still in with a shout at the overall championship too, so they would be going at it from the very start. A good clean run so far would see them leading the class and knocking on the door for top 10 as well. Josh, Jamie, you said you were going to be on it from day one. You have been on it from the start, haven't you, this morning?
Yeah, it's been going well. Seemed to mess about with tyres this morning, but yeah, it's all seemed to be all right. So seemed to be a nice bit of grip out there now. So getting on with it, yeah.
Second in that class fight would be Chris Berry and Daniel Petrie. The times were good, but they wouldn't be challenging for the class win without any issues up ahead. For Pete Gunston and Jonathan Haynes, it would be 3rd in the class. The times were looking good and the lead in that place was comfortable enough not to need any silly mistakes in the afternoon. The crew chasing them down would be Matt Pearce and Jez Rogers. They had a bit of work to do though, around 30 seconds to try and make up in the afternoon. This weekend would be the first time out this year for Andrew and Jo Hutchinson. They didn't get off to a very good start unfortunately though, with a stall on the start line of the first stage. Red mist must have then set in and they bent the rear hub sliding wide on a corner. Not a problem for the service crew, thankfully, but they would have to get through stage 2 before it could be fixed. Barry Morris and Tom Hutchins were having a good start to the day. Even with the slightly wet conditions, they were being a little bit cautious because of that, but would end the first few stages with the Class D lead.
Current championship title holders, how are we getting on today?
Yeah, it's good. It's hard work. Putting a sweat on.
Well, that clearly means that you're trying.
Yeah, it's like a sauna.
How's the car feeling?
It's perfect. This morning was a wee bit damp, probably a bit cautious, but now that it's drying up, we can put the foot down and see how close we can get.
David Henderson and Chris Williams felt they probably made the wrong tyre choice for this first loop. A little too hard a choice for the still damp conditions. They still started the day off well though, with second in the class. The times were close though, with Dave Willett and John Davies lying third in the class at this stage, just 13 seconds back from Henderson ahead of them. And it would be a similar gap too for Mark Smith and Tim Nunn, lying in fourth in the class at this stage, and with their eyes certainly on that podium place. And rounding out the top of Class D would be Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones, fifth in the class for the Escort pair for now, and around 27 seconds back from Smith.
Adrian Spencer and Mark Hewitt will be having a few small issues, but nothing that they couldn't manage, leading the way once again in the E1 class in that Subaru.
How are things going for you guys out there?
Yeah, not so bad. We've got a couple of little issues we're trying to live with and get through the day, but other than that, it's fun, you know, and just start having a laugh. That's all you can do, innit? But now,
If you're not having a laugh, what's the point in doing it?
exactly, you know, I keep saying it, you've got to enjoy it, and as long as we're going well and we're still here, then let's keep going, you know.
Absolutely.
And it'll be what it'll be.
Greg Williams and Richard Edwards only had to finish to get a good class result as far as the championship was concerned, so they would be in survival mode this weekend. We've seen so often though that isn't always the best way of keeping your concentration. A spin on the first stage of the day perhaps reminding them of that very point. A bit of caution was still needed. It was still theirs to lose. For Stephen Kenyon and Jonathan Cragg, it will be third in the class. They were pushing to try and get further up the results, only 29 seconds off Williams up ahead. And rounding out the E1 class results at this stage will be Matthew Harwood and Gav Irvine. A little further back on the times, but not out of reach should something go wrong up ahead or something very good go on inside the car.
It would be a good start in the MX5 class for Paul Gorge and Dan Hurst. They have no issues and end the morning's opening stages with the lead in that class. The battle was on from the start though, with Steve Dolman and Julia Perry chasing them down for that class win, and at one point there would only be 3 seconds separating them. Sadly, that would all change when alternator problems at the start of stage 3 would cost them a stage maximum and drop them out of contention. And it would be a similar story for Stephen Johansson and Lewis Griffiths too. They get a stage maximum on stage 4, meaning that they hold on to third. It did however mean that although 2 of the 3 crews had gained a maximum time, they were still in close fight with only 40 seconds between them. So with the morning complete, here's a reminder of the class results here at the Lee Holland stages, the penultimate round of the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship.
On to the afternoon stages then. This the final round of the series, and there would be no change in that MX5 class. Stephen Johansson and Lewis Griffiths would, unfortunately for them, suffer another bad time on the final stage of the day, ending the rally with that third place in class. Not a bad result. For Steve Dolman and Julia Perry, their earlier problems meant that they were not going to win unless something went very wrong up ahead. It didn't. They still managed second in the class though, with some good times. And despite being willed on for a mistake or two from Steve Dolman and Julia Perry behind, There'd be no change in the results for Paul Gorge and Daniel Hurst. They'd enjoyed the tight and technical parts of the stages here. They suit the car well, taking the MX-5 class victory in style here today.
There wouldn't be any drama in the E1 class. Matthew Harwood and Gav Irvine continue as they were to round out the results with 4th in the class this weekend. And the same could be said for Stephen Kenyon and Jonathan Cragg. They keep up the pace with the rest of the class, but sadly it wasn't enough to climb a place, and they would have to settle for 3rd. Greg Williams and Richard Edwards did what they needed to do in the E1 class, but it wasn't plain sailing for them. They were suffering with power loss as the day went on. They do manage to get to the finish, but would have a lot of work to do before the next event tomorrow. And taking the class win would be Adrian Spencer and Mark Hewitt. A good result for the Subaru pair, with only minor issues to contend with throughout the day.
The Class D fight would see us lose Mike Taylor and Martin Haggett. Problems on the second stage would have dropped them down the results anyway, but the pair would come to a stop in stage 5 quite suddenly and dramatically when they hit a gate post, causing enough damage that they'd be unable to continue or, importantly, to fix the car for the next round the following day. There'd be some change further up the class as well as a reminder of how good this championship is as far as club competition goes. We'd lose David Henderson and Chris Williams when they break a shaft on stage 6. They, though, had a massive amount of help from other competitors' service crews to club together and get the car fixed, ready to get back out for day 2. So it was a bittersweet end for the pair. That, of course, meant that there would be changes in the class. Nick and Sally Wales stepping up to end the rally with 5th place in Class D. Ciro Carinanti and Lauren Hewitt would also benefit from those changes, but as well as just gaining a place through retirement, they also gained time on the class results as well, jumping ahead of Whale to end the rally 4th in the class. And indeed, that would be the story too for Peter Jackson and Craig Simkis, ending the morning stages behind both of the previously mentioned crews, but come the end of the day, they climbed up the leaderboard to take 3rd in Class D this weekend. A bit more change here as well. Martin Hodgson and Tony Jones end the rally 2nd in the class after some movement around in the results through the afternoon stages. And it would be Dave Willett and John Davies taking the class victory. They also end the rally 8th place overall.
Power loss in the morning stages would give Kev Gilchrist and Jack Morris some lost time to make up. Jack's first event, and he did a great job with no mistakes. The pair climbing back up the results a little to end the event with 7th in Class C. After a number of lockdown improvements to this car this weekend, it would be a great test for Mark and Joe Young. They would have some issues with the brakes in stage 4, caused by the fluid boiling, but it would be an easy fix and the pair got back onto it for the afternoon to take 5th in the class. No problems in the afternoon for Andrew and Joe Hutchinson. They just wanted a finish from the weekend, but that of course didn't stop them from trying. A few near misses later and the pair ended the event with 4th in the class. Unfortunately for Chris Berry and Daniel Petrie, they would slip down a place in the afternoon stages, ending the event with 3rd in the class. It was very, very close though, missing out on that 2nd place by just 2 seconds. So that means that there would be a step up to 2nd in the class for the final stages for Matt Pearce and Jez Rogers, just managing to take that place by the smallest of margins. But there would be no change in the class lead, with Josh Payton and Jamie Vaughan taking that class win. The pair also finishing the event rounding out the top 10 overall as well.
Remember that earlier error from Chris Rook and Steve Harris? Well, it had left them with a fight back up the leaderboard. And they do their best. They have a good push in the afternoon to take 5th in the class. A good result considering what might have been. James Toynton and Chloe Louise Thomas had realised that the engine he built in the early 90s before his long absence from the sport was not really up to the pace of the others in the class. Still, the pair were happy with that result. Only out for a bit of fun, 4th in the class was a welcome finish and a good bonus for their efforts. Throttle issues on stage 5 would cost Alex Cannon and Alan Carfrey a little time. probably around 40 seconds. They were unable to gain any positions in the class as a result of this, and they'd have to settle for third in Class B. Mind you, there'd be no catching the lead for Ashley Morris and Mark Fowler either. They settled for a fantastic, at the end of the day, second place overall in the class. Everything going to plan for the pair throughout the day. But that does mean it's a convincing class victory for Ben Wilkinson and David Batley. Their first clean run in the championship this season, although they develop a gearbox rattle on the final stage today, ultimately putting them out of the final round taking place the following day.
Class A wouldn't see any changes from this morning, with Rob Jones and Chris Cook ending the event rounding out the places in third in the class. Alternator problems on the final stage would mean Hugh Williams and Martin Pendlebury have to limp to the finish line, but they do still come away with a good result of second in the class. But there would be no catching the class winners, the unstoppable team of Christopher and Anthony Newton. They had to change to slicks later in the day, and the times were good, taking the class win with a comfortable margin.
With just themselves in the GT class, it would be victory there, of course, for Chris West and Keith Hounslow. They were, however, putting in some good overall times as well, and we know that's where Chris has had his focus, trying to claw his way up that leaderboard through the season. He ends the event fourth overall. On to the E2 class then, and a wrong tyre choice for Paul Walker and Ivan Devine would see them trying to climb up the results all day. The co-driver's first stage rally as well, after competing on road rallies previously. They do manage to claw themselves up as far as 24th on the leaderboard and 14th in the popular and well contested this season E2 class. And having swapped from the Escort earlier in the season, Paul Moreau and Callum Cross were still getting used to the car. A few spins later, and the pair would end this round with 11th place overall, 8th in the class. At the top of the E2 class though, it would be a reflection of the overall leaderboard. Third for Joe Cunningham and Josh Beer. Another great result. They were continuing to impress with their times in only their second outing in the car. For Rob Hughes and Sean Cunniff, it would be second. As much as they tried, they were simply unable to quite catch the leaders. Such was the pace out here at the top. They dropped only a few seconds here and there, but it was enough to mean second place would be where they ended the penultimate round here today. So that means it's victory for Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. A great end to this round and some good times on the stages as well to take victory by 19 seconds at the end of 8 tricky stages with confidence, no doubt, riding high. So the penultimate round of the championship is complete. Here's a reminder of how those class results looked at the end of the Lee Holland stages here at Anglesey. Remember, we'll be bringing you all of the action from the final round of the Motorsport News Circuit Rally Championship very soon. So keep an eye on the championship Facebook page for both the overall and class shows from the SMC stages here at Anglesey. We'll see you then.